renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply. That reply is being given. Air action is now in execution.
But massive firepower and 500,000 American troops were not enough. Casualties rose year by year. And as more and more American boys were killed and maimed, the war became ever more divisive at home. On successive visits to Vietnam, Nixon began to see that the war would be the burning issue in the 1968 presidential election. Nixon would use the issue of Vietnam to bring himself back to national prominence.
I am saying that it is my view that perhaps the major factor that is prolonging this war and that is stiffening the enemy's will to resist is the apparent division within the United States.
America was split between hawks who supported the war and doves who wanted peace. Nixon seems to have realized that the politician who promised to bring the boys back home could be the next president of the USA. In February 1968, Nixon declared that he would run for president.
But as you enter a campaign, you must go in with confidence, and I have great confidence, not cockiness, but confidence. I believe that I will be the strongest candidate, and I believe I can beat Lyndon Johnson.
Campaigning hard in the primaries, Nixon told voters he would end the war. His conservative supporters thought he meant to win it.
I want to tell you of an exciting
But privately, Nixon thought otherwise.
My friends,
basically, he had an approach to disengage and to gradually de-escalate that war to the point where there could be a diplomatic settlement, a fig leaf, and the United States could get out of it.
In January 1968, the Communists launched the devastating Tet Offensive. The US was caught by surprise. In the heart of Saigon, the American embassy itself came under attack. To many, the war now seemed unwinnable. Lyndon Johnson wanted America out. On March the 31st, in a broadcast to the nation, LBJ made a stunning announcement.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
President Johnson was worried about his health. He had asked me to prepare withdrawal statements as far back as the summer of 1967. He wanted, though, to get something for it. So he saw his decision to withdraw as a way to tell the North Vietnamese everything I do from now on is strictly as president to get you to the peace table.
Johnson's withdrawal meant that Vice President Hubert Humphrey became the Democratic candidate in what would be an extremely close presidential race.
We all clearly felt, and so did President Nixon, that it was a political step taken by President Johnson in order to enhance Vice President Humphrey's chances to win the election. And we all felt that President Johnson was capable of taking such a step.
Nixon was astounded by the whole thing. This was so completely unexpected, and it sort of derailed the campaign.
By the summer of 1968, Johnson's peace drive had brought American and North Vietnamese diplomats to Paris for secret negotiations. But when LBJ flew to Hawaii to meet South Vietnam's President Thieu, he failed to persuade him to join the talks. President Thieu and his ambassador in Washington were reluctant to go to Paris.
The South Vietnamese leaders perceived at that time that President Nixon would continue the policy of a good many American troops. They wanted us to stay. They were not too happy with Vice President Humphrey, who had made speeches and comments that they thought might lead to evacuation of Vietnam by American troops.
Johnson was desperate to end the war. Nixon was afraid that some surprise would be sprung in the last 2 weeks of the election.
We're one up.
That same summer, the Republican convention was held in Florida. Nixon sat in his hotel room, waiting to be nominated as presidential candidate.
The youngest delegate of the New Jersey delegation cast its vote for the next president of the United States, Richard Nixon.
There, we work for those. There are 30 votes in Wisconsin. And this should put him across.
Wisconsin is proud to cast its 30 votes for the nominee of this convention, Richard M. Nixon.
Congratulations, all set. Get to work.
Johnson's peace drive presented Nixon with a political problem. Ending the war was a key part of his platform.
All right, thank you very much.
If the Democrats brought off the peace talks, he might lose the election. And this time, Nixon was determined not to lose.
Tonight, I again proudly accept that nomination for President of the United States. But I have news for you. This time there's a difference. This time we're going to win.
Nixon had had the election stolen from him in 1960, had not challenged it because of his desire not to divide the country, and was going to win it big this time or die in the attempt.
He was paranoid. He thought he was in a business where there was no honesty, and if he wished to continue in it, he had to do things that he conceived other people did. And, you know, a lot of the line came out of that.
Just days after his nomination, Nixon visited the LBJ ranch in Texas. According to a Johnson aide, Nixon said, quote, he was not going to undercut the peace process. But Nixon had already made moves that would enable him to influence South Vietnam's President Thieu. It began months earlier at Nixon's Fifth Avenue apartment with a secret meeting between him and a woman called Anna Chennault. One of the most colorful and glamorous figures to have emerged from Asia, Anna is the widow of General Chennault, the legendary commander of the Flying Tigers, who defended China in World War II.
Roaring aloft, they seek the enemy, their flying generals still at the controls.
Soon after the war, General Chennault married the astonishingly beautiful Anna. When her war hero husband died, Anna moved to Washington, where she became a prominent